I want to bring you some other breaking news now. We've had the conclusion of the inquest into the death of a 19-year-old soldier, Royal Artillery Gunner Jaysley Beck. And I do want to warn you that the detail from the coroner at the conclusion of this inquest is distressing, including detail of how Jaysley died. Now, she was found at Larkhill Camp in Wiltshire in 2021 after an army investigation found thousands of WhatsApp messages and voice notes sent from her boss. Let's cross to outside the inquest office where the family are due to speak. Let's take a listen.
Jaysley was so much more than a soldier. She was our daughter, a sister to Emily, and a friend to so many. She was kind, caring, and truly loved by everyone who knew her. She was full of life, bright, and absolutely fantastic at her job. The Army itself has said exactly the kind of person they wanted to join. She should still be here. Today, the coroner has made a number of extremely critical findings against the Army, and they have found that they have contributed to our daughter's death. The Army has admitted that it let Jaysley down and has apologised for its failings, but no apology will ever bring our daughter back. This message to Sir Keir Starmer, our government: things need to change. The Army cannot be allowed to investigate itself anymore when it comes to cases of sexual harassment, assault, bullying and abuse. Too often, service women and men don't feel able to speak up out of fear of being victimised. And even when they do, the Army is left to investigate itself. This cannot continue. There needs to be an independent body responsible for investigating those most serious cases, which is completely separate from the Army. Only then can we ensure true accountability and real justice and genuine change. The only comfort we now know is knowing that hundreds of people in the military have come forward, sharing their own experiences and seeking support. No one should ever have to suffer in silence. There are independent sources available, and we urge anybody affected to reach out. You are not alone. Myself and family would also like to thank our amazing legal team, Emma, our solicitor, and Alison, our barrister, for their hard work and diligence throughout the last 3 years. We could not have done this without them, and we are truly grateful. Jaysley should still be here. We will not stop fighting until immediate action is taken. Thank you.
Well, that was Leanne McCready, the mother of Jaysley Beck, who was just 19 when she was found hanged at Larkhill Camp in Wiltshire. She was in the Royal Artillery. She was a gunner, and the coroner had found took her own life, having been bombarded with messages from individuals in the Army described as psychotic and possessive. Her superior within the armed forces. We heard there from her mother, Leanne McCready, saying to the Prime Minister that things need to change. Let's bring in our social affairs correspondent, Becky Johnson, who's covering this for us. And Becky, look, we heard from Leanne McCready, Jaysley's mum there, with that message that there needs to be an independent body to look at these serious cases of abuse within the Army.
Yeah, strong words there from the mother of Jaysley Beck, just shortly after the coroner concluded that her death was suicide and that the failure of the Army to properly deal with a complaint she made of sexual assault contributed to her death. The coroner also found that a campaign of harassment, intolerable harassment by a much more senior officer who was her direct line manager, also contributed to that death by suicide. And you just heard there Jaysley's mother saying that really an independent body needs to be established so that when people in the army raise these complaints, they're dealt with independently. The coroner went into some detail about the evidence that's been heard during this inquest. Months before Jaysley's death, she had been on a team building event. There'd been a barbecue in the evening, and a much senior officer had pinned her down and attempted to kiss her towards the end of that evening. Now, she had been so frightened, she'd gone and hidden in the toilets and then gone and slept in her car. She'd reported the incident, but it was dealt with in a minor administrative way. The officer was asked to write her a letter of apology, which he did, and then months later he was then promoted. Now, the coroner said that he found on the balance of probabilities that Jaysley had been the victim of a sexual assault, that the army should have reported that to the police, and that the failure to report it to the police was a breach of the army's policy. So really strong words from the coroner. And he also spoke about the thousands of WhatsApp messages she'd had declaring unrequited love from her line manager in the months leading up to her death had been intolerable harassment for her. Now, this inquest has led, as you heard Jaysley's mother allude to, hundreds of female soldiers, former and current, taking to social media to outline their experiences of harassment and assault in the army. It's really laid bare a culture, many would say, of misogyny within the armed forces that has led to the Chief of Staff writing to senior officers to express his disgust at what he's seen written, the experiences that some women have had to go through within the army. And you just heard there the family of Jaysley Beck saying this must now lead to change. There must be change within the army. And indeed, I spoke to a friend of Jaysley Beck who herself also served in the army. She said she doesn't believe the army is a safe place for women as it stands. She also called for change, and I think many will hope that this is a watershed moment that has really exposed a culture that has led to the suffering of so many women within the armed forces.
OK, Becky, for now, in Wiltshire, thank you for that. Now, if you have been affected and impacted by that reporting of the death of Jaysley Beck, remember, support is available 24 hours a day through the Samaritans. The details are on the screen now. You can email joe@samaritans.org.